Hey guys, this is MTG Degree. My name is Luke, and today we're going to do another video about cheating, another technique. Now, the last video was met with a lot of enthusiasm, and I really enjoyed that, but there was also a little bit of confusion in the comments, so we're going to try to make sure that everything is crystal clear explained to you guys exactly how everything is working and how it interacts with the rules. And I got a great comment from one of you, and it was that it might be a little bit hard for newer players to recognize all the non-basics and all the different spells in the decks. So from now on, we're just going to use decks of basic land with them very clearly marked as to which cards we're looking for. So I think that should help with clarity, and without saying any more, let's get into the technique for today. A quick disclaimer. These cheats are not for you to use. I'm showing you them so that you can protect yourself from them. Please don't use these. Thank you. Alright guys, well, as the title of the video suggests, we're going to try to show you how people can do a technique to top deck against you. So here's our deck that, as I explained, is all basic land, so it's real easy to see what's going on. And we're going to add a mountain just because this is what we are going to try to top deck. We're going to try to get this mountain on the top of the deck. So before we start, let's just give the deck a little bit of a shuffle, right? Alright. Now, I've already probably fooled 95% of you because the mountain is right at the top of the deck. Now, this is a little bit maybe not obvious, so let's do it in slow motion. All right, welcome back from slow motion. So let me explain this verbally. So let's say, for example, that your opponent has cracked a fetch land and they want to put something important on top. Like you're at 3 life, they want to put a bolt on top, right? Well, they get their land from their fetch land and they put what they want on the bottom. Say that's the example. Then they can take their deck, and while it's on the bottom, they're pinching this card a little bit like this, right? And the rest of this is held right above. They're just given that bottom card just a little bit of an extra pinch, and the rest of it is kind of floating. And then they do this, you know? Now, the thing that I would like to point out about this is that that style of shuffling is extremely innocent. Lots and lots of people, including myself, love to do that little shuffle right at the end or between mass shuffles or whatever, and it is not a sign of cheating. What you need to do is watch closely when they are playing and seeing if they're putting stuff on the top like that, which you would never be able to notice such an innocent thing, such an innocent looking thing, if it weren't for, you know, your knowledge that you have now. Now, let's do another example. So, maybe they have small hands, and that's a little bit tough. Well, there's another thing people might do, which is the same thing. They're kind of pinching down here, and they just do it like this, right? So it's the exact same shuffle, and they end up with the mountain on the top because they pinched it and kept it for last. Now, MTG Degree, you might tell me, there is an easy solution to this, and it does not involve watching your opponent. It's to simply shuffle their deck, right? Because after they shuffle, then even if they put this on top, then you get your chance to shuffle and you just shuffle it away. Well, that is not necessarily true, because half the time they are shuffling your deck for you, and that's a real problem. Let's say that you shuffle your deck because you cracked a fetch land and you're trying to thin out the lands from there. Well, great, you shuffle your deck, you hand it to your opponent, and then they, you know, let's take this mountain out, they, you know, mash it once or twice, and then they see that there's a land on the bottom, and then they go like this, and then they hand it to you, and there you go, you're flooded. Well, have another land, buddy, because you're not allowed to touch your deck after they shuffle it up for you, right? So that is the real danger, is that not only can they do it to their own deck, if you're, you know, being naive and innocent and a nice person and not cutting or not shuffling, they also get to mess with your deck constantly. And that's a real downer, folks. So that's why this one is so important. Now, beyond those two basic ones, which let me go over again, they're pinching the bottom here, and then they're going like this, you know, and then that bottom one ends up on top. Or they're doing it like this, right? And then that mountain ends up on top. Now, there are two other ways, which I consider really ham-fisted ways that look silly, but somebody might do it to you, you know? So maybe you should know the less sneaky ways so that you can just keep an eye out for it. Now this one looks rather dumb when the camera's right on top of it, but if you're not paying attention to your opponent's shuffling, this one's pretty easy to do, which is to simply be gripping this bottom card and just do that real quick, you know? Pretty darn lame, but they're just bringing it through the bottom, so you might not even notice that. So just keep an eye on their hands. The other one that I've seen done, which looks really goofy, I'll show you, is like this. So they see what they want on the bottom, and then they do this kind of thing until there's just the one card left. And then ta-da, look at that card. Now that one's really ham-fisted. I don't know how often you'll see it, but you know, there's all sorts of crazy people out there. So I hope this helped you guys out. It should be pretty clear that your opponent can do things that look very innocuous, like this shuffle, which once again is extremely common, but they can use it in such a way as to be cheating you. So make sure that your opponent's eyes are not on their decks while they're shuffling, or your decks while they're shuffling your deck, and stop this from happening to yourself. Of course, if you ever think that there's a problem going on, you can ask judges to shuffle decks, and their shuffle becomes the last shuffle of that deck, and a judge, I assure you, is on your side, so they won't be doing this sneaky stuff. All right, well, I hope you guys found that useful. If you did, go ahead and hit those like buttons, those subscribe buttons if you really enjoyed the content. I do plan on covering pretty much every technique related to cheating because we do want to squash this in Magic, in my opinion. All right, I'll see you guys next video.